And good evening, everybody. Welcome. And tonight we have a special treat for you. We're continuing on with our Tuesday night nonfiction post-apocalyptic book club, and we're still working on James Wesley Rawles's I want to say almost biblical book, How to Survive the End of the World as We Know It. This is a 2009 edition. I finished reading it in 2013. This is an
Digital.
essential, huh?
Digital.
And she has it digital. This is an essential part of your preps. You got to have this book. That's all there is to it. We've been working on the first 4 chapters. We spent 2 weeks on chapter 2 or chapter 3, and now we're in chapter 5, the deep larder. It was chapter 3 that we were spent on 2 weeks. The list of lists, I believe. Not even chapter 2. Chapter 5, the deep larder, your family's food storage. So one of our channel regulars is Maggie from Aussie Life. And she and I chat quite a bit, not only online and in the comments where she provides so much information, but she and I talk on the phone, we chat, we text, we email. I mean, we have all kinds of communications. And so I learn from her and she learns from me, and we do an awful lot of sharing. And I thought that since she is such a good expert in this field, in my opinion, that it would be great to have her as a guest co-host this evening and talk about what she's doing around the deep larder. So let me say hello to a whole bunch of people. Then I'm going to let Maggie introduce herself, tell you a little bit about herself, and then we'll get started. And I'm going to let her have about half the show just to talk about this this chapter in the book. So let me see. Theoxorus, good evening. Welcome, South Florida DCL Shenanigans. Diana 2, Kaylin Strain, Little Lone Prepper, welcome. Good evening. South Florida DCL Tech by V. Muskoka Oma, good evening. Good to see you.
Good evening.
Let me see. Magic Acres, welcome. Utah Mike, welcome. Tammy Harder, North Carolina Farmer. Gosh, I hope I don't miss anybody. That looks like it's for right now. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Maggie and let Maggie introduce herself and talk about the chapter 5, the deep larder. So Maggie, it's all yours.
I've learned a ton from you. So I started about 6 years ago just being concerned. I mean, I'm in Florida, Central Florida. So we get hurricanes. Used to be once every few years, maybe 1 or 2 hurricanes, but now seems like we've got flooding and who knows what else. So I decided I needed a little bit more preparation. We had a hurricane coming in. It was 2019. I'd started kind of prepping 2018. And when I say prepping, I mean just trying to, cook up those meals in small portions, put them in the freezer. Then I started storing up extra, a little extra here, a little extra there, water and first aid, batteries, a little bit of cooking equipment, all the things you'd need if you've got power out, hurricane season. I mean, it's very real. And we had family and friends down in the Keys, and they got out the last bit. 2 people came up probably 2 or 3 days before the hurricane hit there. And the other 3 people didn't come up until literally it was hitting. So they stayed just ahead of it, and they arrived at the house with dogs. So that was the other thing is with hurricanes, if you're going to have to stay indoors for any period of time and you have animals, have a solution for their bathroom needs, because they're not going to want to go outside. So my solution was a baby pool with a little bit of dirt inside, and all the dogs liked it. So that worked. For the people side, of course, we were out of power for 10 days. And until you go through a situation where you don't have stuff, you really don't know what you need. The book deals with a little bit about that deeper larder and things that you need for, what do you need for storage? So my husband and I decided just prior to the hurricane that we were going to try and live, let's see how this goes. We lived out of our freezer and our small pantry and discovered what we needed. Then we're like, well, people might need stuff, our neighbors, family, whatever, if somebody came. We used it. We still had stuff left. We could have gone another probably a week or so with already prepared food. All I had to do was break out the sternos. I had my rack inside the kitchen. I had battery powered fans that kept us cool. 10 days in the Florida heat in the summer is not
Wow.
fun. So, but really, I think what really helped was having that week long, this is what we're eating for the week. And we did have some leftover, but we also discovered what we could take out of the bucket, what we really needed, and having a separate bucket for somebody else's needs. If you've got somebody that's gluten free, you've got somebody that can't have certain items. It's just up to your own basic needs, but then there's space. So I guess it was about a year after, yeah, because it was in the end of 2019. So it's probably 6 months or so after the hurricane that we moved into a small condo. Tried to garden out on the back porch. That was difficult because Florida and mold and gardening don't always go hand in hand. I could garden better inside than on the back porch. Limited space. So I had a closet that was a walk-in closet in our guest room. So it was only a 2-bedroom. And we built like a little wall, 2x4s, and used the cedar planking, and basically planked the inside of the, I'll see if I can find a picture, planked the inside of the storage. It was a 6-foot by 6-foot, and we took about 3 feet out of it. So it turned into from a walk-in closet to just a regular closet. And the planking, you could pick out the doorway.
Oh,
And
okay. Okay.
it was a 2.5 foot by about 4 foot. So you had to duck in, and there was shelves that were about 3 feet deep to the left. 2 people could stand up in there and just stand there. I put in battery powered lighting so I could turn it on and off. And the battery, if I unplugged everything, this is something also that I discovered. There's something called a trickle charge. If you leave something plugged in, even though it's off, you will lose power on it. So if you have a battery pack, unplug everything from it, because this little battery pack lasted for a year. No charge to it. It stayed full, but I had to have it unplugged. If I left it plugged in, the lighting, even though the light was off, it trickle charged out, and within a month I was dead.
Mm.
So, but I packed that larder full, and that's 7-foot high ceiling. And I could fit in on the top shelf, 3 number 10 cans.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 4 deep and 3 wide. So I had that. I had 2 shelves like that were packed with number 10 cans. Then I had vacuum sealed my sugar, rice, flour. And what I do is I use these, I don't have them right here, sorry. Lunch bags. This brown paper bag is a lunch bag so that it doesn't suck into your vacuum sealer and ruin it. And I guess getting started was little by little. So if you buy just a 5-pound sack of flour, sugar, powdered sugar, brown sugar, get all the air out of it, put it in these market 1 cup per bag, because typically you're gonna, it's good for trade too, but it's more usable this way, and you don't have to worry about measuring. And just a little bit at a time. The other thing is, we didn't want to look like we were, hoarding or, doing all the things that, would trigger anything. So we're bringing in maybe 2 extra grocery bags. This is kind of how we got started. Use 1, buy 2. Like I was telling Lee earlier, it's like if I ran out of mustard in the fridge, I go up and get my 1 mustard upstairs. I go to the grocery store, I buy 2 more mustards. Next time I go to I'm out 1, I go in and I buy 2 more, or I'll buy at least 1 more. Especially if I'm out, then that triggers me to buy 2 more. So it's not something that really hit our pocketbook so much, trying to, add those in. But I did remember back in the day when things were really hard and I was struggling, my son was little, we had a lot of food pantries. around. And there's people that I've talked to that go to these food pantries. Now here in Orlando, Florida, we have like 50 of them. They're not always open every day, but if you start doing the rounds, you can actually start collecting food from these different pantries as you need it. And there's a lot of, well, here we've got a lot of people that are new to this area, you could say, and they're in line too. So you can expect to be in line, but I know it's easy. You're buying one, or you need one, buy two. It can be easy to get caught up in the whole expense of it and go outside of budgets. So again, if you're really on that budget, then there's the pantries. I guess that deep storage that it talks about.
The deep larder, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I took a note on real quick, there's two things I want to comment about what you've said so far. And the first one is, I think it's really important that we understand that, don't go out and get number 10 cans if it's just you, especially if it's something like a number 10 can of Hormel chili or a number 10 can of pinto beans or something like that. What Maggie talked about was basically save your food in portions that make sense for you and your family. So if there's only one or two of you, take a number 10 can, subdivide it into smaller portions so that you're only opening and only unsealing that portion that's going to be used by you for that meal. Remember that in a post-apocalyptic world, we aren't going to have a refrigerator for leftovers. So, or most of us won't. So you want to make sure that you have the capability of dividing that up ahead of time and then having it in consumable parts. Maggie and I theologically and philosophically are on the exact same path. And so I don't do this very often, but I would just like to give a couple quotes that emphasize what Maggie's talking about and what I talk about when I talk about I'm buying certain things for my neighborhood. Okay. And Maggie believes the same way. So the first thing I would like to give you are two different passages out of Matthew chapter 25. And it says, we started at verse 35, and it says, "For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. A stranger, and you welcomed me. Naked, and you clothed me. Ill, and you cared for me. In prison, and you visited me." Then the righteous will answer him and say, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? When did we see you a stranger and welcome you, or naked and clothe you? When did we see you ill or in prison and visit you?" And the king will say to them, "Amen, I say to you, whatever you did for one of these, the least brothers of mine, you did for me." So we are charged basically that we have to take care of our fellow human beings. Now, my favorite portion of that, I have to go back here to the book of James, is James 2, verses 14 through 24. I don't know if I don't even have to go back to that because it says, "O vain man, dost thou not know that faith without works is dead, being alone? What doth it profit, my brother, if a man is naked, destitute, in need of food and clothing, and you say unto him, Depart, be filled with the Spirit, go in peace? Notwithstanding, you give him those things which are needed. Was not Abraham only sanctified when he placed the body of Isaac upon the altar of God? Show me your faith by your words, and I will show you my faith by my actions, because faith without works is dead, being alone." So both of us believe that it is our obligation to take care of our fellow man. So both of us are a little bit different from most of the other preppers that you see. We are making plans on how are we going to help our fellow man. And so I would encourage you that as you do your prepping, as you begin thinking about how you're going to do your food storage, also include in there, what can you do to help your fellow man? How can you help them? And maybe you can give them a job as a guard. Maybe you can give them a job as a gardener, as a wood collector or whatever, and have them earn their food, but you're still feeding them and helping them in a post-apocalyptic world. So I just want to add that we do have an obligation, and Maggie and I see eye to eye on that. And that's I think that's one of the reasons why we get along so well, is because we can, and as I close every one of my shows, we're all in this together. And that's the whole key is we have to be thinking about how can we do this together. So let me get up here and check out some of the comments. So Caitlin says that there's a woman who has a disabled and prepping, divides it into small portions. This is just the same as Maggie does and I do. Muskoka Oma asked if dividing things up into smaller portions and vacuum sealing them, if it causes them to cake or to clump. And I have found just the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
I have found that by taking out any humidity, by taking out any air, that basically I'm preserving them and keeping them from clumping a little bit better. The first of those that I started preserving that way was salt. So every time I get a box of salt, I will always vacuum seal that immediately, because that's one of those that has a tendency to clump no matter what you try to do. Let me see.
And nothing's surviving that lack of oxygen. And I have found that I don't need to waste the money. Those oxygen absorbers are 50 cents a piece. And I don't know about you, but I'd rather spend it on food, something I can eat. So I have never had an issue with any oxygen. I did have a pack of nuts. Now, these are not treated nuts, so they don't have any of the oils in them. They were dry roasted nuts. I knew that they had a short shelf life, maximum vacuum sealed, maybe a year. And one of my bags started bloating. And if I'd had the oxygen absorber in there, it might not have bloated as soon, but it bloated within probably 2 weeks, and it told me there was bacteria in there. So I just tossed it, because it wasn't just a broken seal. It definitely, it's just easier, safer to toss.
Kaylin also says this lady, disabled and prepping, breaks up canned goods into smaller portions. I have not tried that, to be honest with you, but that may be wise. Recently I have been buying number 10 cans of pinto beans at Sam's and number 10 cans of Hormel chili. And then what I figure is that I can take the chili and beans and mix those together, come up with, basically 64 servings, and then just make some rice and then put that all together, chili and rice. And I can probably feed my neighborhood a full meal. And so that's where I'm going with that. Another thing you might want to consider as a handout to people who are in need is ramen, or you can also consider giving out oats, the little instant packages of oats. Oatmeal. There we go. Shenanigans helps her church's food pantry, and they give out good food. There's a church. I'm a member of St. Vincent de Paul, so we do quite a bit helping the community. And one of our food banks is another St. Vincent de Paul chapter, and it's at Santa Rosa de Lima Catholic Church in Andice, Texas. They have a phenomenal food pantry, and I drove one of our neighbors over there who didn't have a car, so I took him over to get food for him. And he got 2 pounds of frozen shrimp, 2 pounds of roast beef, 2 pounds of ground beef. It was fantastic. So there are some fantastic food pantries out there. Thank you to all of you who donate and make those food pantries possible, because we couldn't do it without you. Let me see. Tech by V talks about that number 10 can of chili. Yes, and so mix that with rice, chili and rice. And you've got a phenomenal meal you can share with your community. XNYCOG Prepper, welcome. Good evening. Good to see you. So Utah Mike. So I guess, and I guess it was timely. I put out a 1-minute short today about fuel. And I think one of the things people forget is, we tell people buy beans and oats and flour and sugar and rice and, all this stuff. We forget to tell them it's going to take 3 hours in a pot. You soak your beans overnight in water. Then the next day you got to have a pot. You're going to heat that for 3 hours. You got to have some sort of fuel to heat it for 3 hours. So now you can reduce that time if you get something like a can cooker, which is an outdoor version of a pressure cooker, or if you have electrical power, if you have whole house solar or a solar battery backup that is capable of running Oh, Maggie, we were talking about it before the show.
The
What
battery
is it you
solar
use?
power
No,
packs.
no. What is it that you do your beans in? Um,
Oh, the Instapot.
Instapot. Yeah, there we go. Instapot. So if you have enough power where you can run one of those, that would be phenomenal as well. So anything you can do to reduce the amount of heat that you have to consume. Um,
Caitlin said something earlier about, oatmeal, cream of wheat, stuff like that. Something I have found, and I'm glad that I did it again. I did those things in the vacuum sealer. Those items have dehydrated fruits in them, which reduces the length of time they can sit. Dehydration does not always remove all of the humidity in the item. So if there's anything in there, including botulism, that stuff will start growing. Even if you think you've gotten out all the oxygen, dehydrated stuff does need those oxygen absorbers if it's dehydrated. Freeze dryer is a little bit different as long as there is absolutely no moisture. But I run my dehumidifier in the room that I'm doing my vacuum seal. So I try and keep the humidity down to 40%. And I've had nosebleed issues that night from it. But I'd rather be safe than sorry. But yeah, the oatmeal packs and anything with those dehydrated fruits in them, they don't have as long of a shelf life.
Phylloxera, thank you. And Phylloxera has a real good idea here too. Is it repackaging it into smaller amounts, 2, 4, 6 cup amounts,
Yep.
and then put those together in a clean cat litter bucket
Yep.
or a hyper tough tub. And he likes to keep it under 30 pounds. That's thinking for me, because as we get older, our ability to, I mean, look at these muscles. This is all flab now. That's not muscle. Well, a little bit of muscle there, but silver sneakers, thank you. But anyhow, I just don't have the ability to lift things high, and of course, neither do you. And if you're in a diminished capacity because of SHTF, then you don't want to have heavy things. So Theoxerus has a brilliant idea. Keep it down at a weight that is manageable so that you can maneuver it if necessary. There are those shenanigans, and this is a tough call. This is really a tough call. There are those who believe that other people inherently want to take from you if you have.
Yep.
And they believe in the inherent bad of man, whereas I think Maggie and I believe in the inherent good of man. And so we believe that, there's going to be some bad actors out there, but I think the majority good actors will be assisting us and protecting us from the bad actors.
But I have a question. One of my concerns is that, yes, you're going to have some of those bad actors. How do you protect yourself, your food store, not protect yourself? Because a lot of times they'll just come in, take your stuff, and leave. And one of mine, let me know when you want to fill in, because I've got that picture of that garden thing solution. And that's kind of the deeper storage.
Oh yeah, you can do that. Go ahead and show that.
So I became concerned after we moved again out of the condo into a little bit more space. I wanted to grow. So I've got these kind of beds that are raised up. They're 2 feet by 6 foot long and 2 feet tall. So it's kind of up where the dogs can't pee on my plants and destroy them, but it's also serving a purpose. You don't need that much dirt. So 7 5-gallon cans will fit in the bottom of that, surrounded by sand and wood, logs of wood, which I put in between. You're going to need the burn wood anyway, and wood is it absorbs water. If you have too much rain, the roots will start reaching down to that wood to pull from it because it becomes a sponge. Not new wood, you want older wood so that it'll, but it'll fit 7 cans. So it's like do throughout on the bottom of that sand, wood, and then I do the dirt. And if I have to change my stuff out, which our plan is, we change a bed out, we pull the dirt out, we check one thing. So each bed we're putting in at one time. So we're staggering our use of it, and we're doing those lids that screw. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So they're 5 gallon. Yes, they weigh a lot, but there's a week's worth for 2 people. And I mean, for us, we made it work because technically somebody's going to be physically active. One
Yeah.
bucket's good for one person for a week, 7 days. But we've made it work, one bucket for two of us. But we're older, middle age. So, well, not, but so that was a solution, and it's not obvious. And if something happened and we couldn't stay in our home, we may have to come back in the middle of the night, and we have access to our stock stuff. I
Yeah.
don't recommend, this is Florida, it gets hot. And I don't recommend unless you can do dry ice in there that's separate from the items. And I think the book talks about the dry ice, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. And I really like that section. I didn't know some of that until I read that in that chapter.
So one of the things in this is the health safety code, because I had to have a food handler's, actually a food distributor permit and safety class as a,
Oh,
because my disaster response trailer was primarily food service. So at least in Texas and then Louisiana, I had to get a food service permit there. In Mississippi. They're all pretty close. We consider cool as being less than 40 degrees, and frozen is at 0 degrees or below. So, water freezes at 32 degrees. So if you just have regular ice cubes, that's considered refrigerated if you use those to keep something cold. In order to get it frozen, you have to use dry ice. Now, dry ice is pressurized carbon dioxide. So they just take carbon dioxide and put it into a solid from a gas state. It's heavier than air. So if you put it down at the bottom of your freezer or your chest, whatever, then it's going to be 0 degrees or below at the bottom portion and above 0 at the top portion. So you'll have refrigeration. If you want to freeze your items, then you have to put the dry ice on top so that all that cold air goes down below. Let me see. We just had somebody else new join. And so Utah Mike says that he's going to share his electric power as well. I have the same plan. I plan on freezing water bottles and ice cubes and giving those to my neighbors, charging batteries. One of my neighbors that's part of my group is CPAP dependent. And so they have a space here for sure to run their CPAP machine at night so that they can sleep, or if they happen to be sleeping during the daytime because of shift rotations as far as guard duty and everything. Tammy says that she found a deal on pizza sauce in number 10 cans, and that's exactly what we'll do. We'll open it and put it in small portions. Yes, absolutely. Wise decision. And so what you're doing is you're keeping it in the original container so it has a prolonged storage life, and then you'll subdivide it. And that's going to have a shorter storage life, but a sufficient storage life to last you through whatever disaster there is. Kaylin says that basically the same thing. The Quran says the same thing about helping and sharing with your neighbors. I'm not exceptionally concerned with feeding neighbors. I share with them now, and they are all are higher income than me. They must do something for themselves, and there is some truth to that. So that's why I say nobody gets a free ride. If you want your food from me, you're going to do something to earn it. Remember, gosh, where is that? I think it's in Proverbs that it says that if you don't work, you don't eat. And so everybody's going to have a portion in doing something of value to the community in order to draw from the community. It's not a free ride. Mad Chick believes that oxygen absorbers are essential when freeze drying, and I would say that they definitely add value. That's for sure. I don't, if I repackage freeze-dried foods, or if I even stuff that's not freeze-dried, I don't always put in an oxygen absorber. In some cases, I do put in the desiccant to absorb any moisture, but not too often. I would say probably 30% of the time do I add an oxygen absorber to anything that I vacuum seal. Right now, I'm not, and let me tell you why. I believe that there's a timeline. Okay, and so if I thought that I was going to be using the things that I'm vacuum sealing right now, 20 years from now, I would definitely put an O2 absorber in there.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, I'm going to be using the stuff that I am packaging now within a year to 2 years.
Yep.
So I'm not that concerned about the stuff that I'm shrink wrapping right now, or not shrink wrapping, but vacuum sealing. I'm not as concerned about the long-term storage of it right now as I am just keeping it prolonged, if you know what I mean. So I have a feeling that I'm going to be using it a lot longer than what that not having an oxygen absorber in there will add value for. Maggie, I saw you shaking your head yes.
Yeah, if it's long term, if you're talking about more than a year, I would. Because I have made some bigger batches, but I haven't had my dryer for that long. I've had it operating for about a year now, so I am right now still in my testing phase. I want to verify and make sure scientifically. I've got my logbook. I log everything in there. I want to see what it's like not to have them right now because I don't know how long we'll be able to get them. So I have some. I'm just saving them. They are 50 cents a pop. So
yeah. So Gil says that he takes number 10 cans and recans those into 1.5 jars. Kaylin talks about oatmeal grits, cream of wheat. Those are great preps. They add great value. One of the things, I don't know if you've noticed it or not, but one of the things I focus on is I get the cornmeal, and so that I can make grits or I can make corn muffins or anything like that. But every time I get a box so that I can make one complete serving of cornmeal or grits or cornmeal primarily, then I also get a can of creamed corn. And so if it asks for X amount of liquid, I figure half of that liquid is going to be my creamed corn. And that just really adds a lot of great texture and taste to it. So if every can of Jiffy cornbread mix gets 1 can of creamed corn. XNYC OG Prepper is canning beef and chicken stews and soups this week. Maggie and I were talking about that as well, and I think we're both in agreement here too. I believe that the vast majority, the best way to survive is going to be with soups, stews, chowders, and casseroles. And so those are going to be the primary things that we're probably going to be looking at eating. Shenanigans says that everybody knows where everything is in her place. We've got the rice. Oh, great idea, Holly. Great idea. She's copied out, typed up basically several copies of FEMA's emergency preparations guidelines and put times 20 on it and passed it out to neighbors. That's a great idea.
That is a good idea.
Go ahead.
That is a good idea.
So Cats and Prepping says that beans are not only labor intensive, but I agree, and they are also heat intensive. Let us know how that goes, Utah Mike. That would be very interesting to find out. Mad Chick divides her 25-pound bags into 1-pound bags. Yeah, I think we all wish we were a lot closer than what we are. XNYC. I would love to have Maggie as a next door neighbor.
Yeah, come on over.
And I would like to get
Florida.
Sumi down here as well. I don't see Sumi in here, but Sumi, we'd like to get her down here to the States and have her as a neighbor too.
And Little Lone Prepper.
Yeah, and Little Lone Prepper is another.
We've got our own whole community in Oma.
Oh yeah, if I could have the people who are regulars here on this channel as neighbors, I'd be the happiest guy on earth. I tell you what. Absolutely, Holly. That's what we're talking about. And can openers. Now, let me tell you something. We had our get together this last weekend, and I provided, actually, Nutrient Survival was phenomenal. They provided us with food, coffee, discounts, and everything else for all the people who were together in my group at our meeting this last month. So thank you, Nutrient Survival. But we also found out that some of our cheaper can openers did not work on the Nutrient Survival cans.
Oh.
So do me a favor. If you have a plethora of cheap can openers because you just wanted to have quantity over quality, test them. Open a number 10 can of something, coffee or something. Test them before it's too late. We went through 3 can openers before we found one that worked. And then we tried them on other cans and they had the same problem. So it was the can openers, not the cans.
Is it because it's too deep of a rim on the top? Okay. So those old school, the Army ones.
The P38 worked great.
Yeah.
And the P51 even better because it's bigger. Yeah, I purchased a whole bunch of P38s and gave those away. That was my gift to all the members this last weekend.
So under each type of, so if I've got veggies, I've got meat and stuff like that, I put one underneath the lid of the number 10 can. So I took them and spread them out. So I've got one for the potatoes, one for the meats, one for the veggies. I spread them out.
So you're kind of like I am, Tuck by V, and I'm mobility challenged as well. So, but hopefully, I'm doing physical therapy twice a week now, so hopefully I'll get my hip back in shape at some point, and maybe I can start walking with Helen. Kaylin, that never uses anything bigger than a gallon. That's great. That is phenomenal. Let me see where we are. So Theoxerus is agreeing with me that, put everything that's heavy down below and all the light stuff up top. As we get older, our ability to move that stuff around is going to be something different. Game cams. That's a great idea. And those are battery operated. The only thing is, will we have cell phone service after SHTF? But I like the idea. You're thinking. I think that's great. Let me see anything else here. So I'm with you, Kaylin. I don't do any canning per se. I vacuum seal the Atlas jars that I purchase or whatever. So, that's primarily noodles and pastas and beans and things like that go in there. Although I've been using a lot of these. I have the pump and seal system. So these are pretty airtight. I'll clean this up. Helen will wash this out for me when I empty it. Then I'll put in dry goods, and then you put a little hole in the lid, and it's got this little flap that attaches by tape. And so when you use the pump and seal system, you suck the air out, and it comes out through that flap. And then once you release the pressure, the flap seals. So you've got a pressure seal on the jar, and it's completely reusable. So that's a fantastic system. Let me see. Okay. What else do we need to talk about in the book, Maggie?
I had a question about, and I'd never heard of this before, and it did talk about freezing olive oil. Has anyone tried that?
I haven't. Mine's all in a closet inside a dark room.
Yeah, that's how mine are. And mine, 2 years later, still good. Kirkland brand, 100% olive oil. It's hard to find brands that truly are unadulterated. So Kirkland brand is still good. I check on there's a website you can go to. It's an organization that goes and tests all the different brands from the stores, whether or not they're still unadulterated. So Pompeian and Kirkland, because if you've got other seed oils in there, they're not going to last as long.
So I do want to go over some of the things that he does cover in the book that I think, and please get a copy of this book. You absolutely need it. You need to go through it. I think it's one of those critical books it's a must-have in your library. So he talks about moderation and variety are the keys. Your staples will be dried goods such as corn, wheat, rice, and beans. You'll also need to stock up on canned fruits, vegetables, powdered milk, lots and lots of salt. The real key to self-sufficiency is having both storage foods and the ability to grow your foods. So here's the plan. you're going to have basically 3 different levels of food prep. You're going to have your commercial canned goods and your frozen foods and refrigerated foods. You're probably going to last you for the first day to up to a month. Okay. Once that's done, then you're going to go into your larder or your longer storage foods. Those could be commercial canned goods, but it's going to primarily be your number 10 stored, freeze dried, dehydrated, or home canned goods. Once that's gone, it's gone. You need a way to replenish that. So you need to start thinking now about how am I going to replenish the foods that I need. So that's where hunting, trapping, fishing, gardening, farming are going to come critical. Let me tell you, I'm a slow learner as far as gardening. Somebody laughed at it yesterday, but I mentioned the fact that I'm on my 3rd blackberry bush. For some reason, I just cannot grow a blackberry bush, and they grow wild. I mean, they grow everywhere but in my backyard. But now I can do okay. I can do okay with potatoes, not great. I want to do that better there. But tomatoes, I do okay. So there are some things I do okay with. My herbs. Let me see. Look at this. Look at my poor herbs. I mean, crying out loud. I mean, so this one's almost gone. So this
Rosemary.
is my English time. But anyhow, gardening is not something you learn overnight. It's not as simple as put a seed in the ground and it's going to grow. It's a lot more difficult than that. So you need to start now. Okay, so what you need to keep: canning lids, rings, salt, sulfur, vinegar, spices, baking soda, yeast, food storage bags, aluminum foil, deer bags, loads of aluminum foil, loads of plastic wrap, loads of parchment paper. Those are my additions to it. He says you need salt, lay in a supply of at least 10 pounds of salt per member of your family, rice, wheat, 220 pounds per adult per year in wheat. There's a guy, Eric, and his channel is Epic Gardening. He's out of San Diego. And he did
I think I've seen his.
Huh?
I think I've seen his.
Yeah, he did he turned his backyard into a wheat field for one summer just to see how much he could grow. And after he threshed that wheat, he had just enough flour in an entire backyard. I think it was about like a 20 by 40 backyard. He had just enough wheat for a 1.5 loaves of bread. So, you're going to have to learn how to do it a lot. Corn, oats, fats, oils, powdered milk, canned fruits, vegetables, canned meats, sugars. I will put a link to the LDS Provident Living Guide, and it's for free. You can print it if you want to. It's like 480 some odd pages, but it has some phenomenal information about how much food that you need to store per person. Other musts that he talks about: UHT, ultra high temperature pasteurized retort packaged milk, condensed milk, canned milk, freeze dried milk, powdered milk. Powdered mashed potatoes are great for that. You get your vitamins, your multivitamins and other food source supplements, natural laxatives, vitamin C, peanut butter, sprouts, coffee, any other drinks that you want to have. He talks about how to store grains and how important that is. He says that go to the ethnic area of your grocery store, and if you want a fat that is going to store for a long time, in the ethnic area there's manteca, which is Spanish for lard, and you can get tubs of lard. I've got a couple tubs of manteca, and they do fine. Let me see what else.
Can I suggest one thing?
No, just two.
Canned coconut milk is crucial. And I say this because when you start having gut issues, if you don't have probiotics, having canned coconut milk, you can create your own probiotics. You can make like a kefir out of it. And it's healthy. It lasts longer because it's not the animal fats.
You keep bringing up important stuff, Maggie.
Sorry.
Doggone. But I want to expound on that just a little bit. A lot of these foods your body is not used to eating, especially those of you who are planning on eating MREs. Let me tell you what, you will have an immediate gut check once you start relying on foods that you don't normally eat. And it's going to change the entire chemistry of your body. So make sure you have plenty of OTC supplies of probiotics, of laxatives, of stool softeners, of anti-diarrheals, because some people react different ways. You can either retain everything and you need to get rid of it, so you're going to need some sort of OTC to get rid of it, or you're going to be getting rid of too much of it and you need an OTC to help you retain some of it. But also make sure you get plenty of electrolytes, things like drip drop and liquid IV and those types of things. And Nutrient Survival has some fantastic nutrient additives as well to put into your water, because you're going to need to replace all those electrolytes you're losing if you have a chronic case of diarrhea. So make sure you have plans for how you're going to help your body adjust to a new form of eating and a new form of digesting. So thank you for reminding us about that, Maggie. Let me see. Very best 5-gallon food buckets come with the seal. I think you were talking about Gamma Seal, those screw tops, Maggie?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Bear Independent runs Grindstone Ministries. They do food service and field medicine in disaster areas. Yes, he does. Yep. I have seen him do videos on that, but I have not seen him. I no longer do that. That's I'm too old for that now. So Keelan says that a 600 watt power station can run a CPAP all night. Thank you. I did not know that. So I have a 600 watt. No, I have 1,000 watt. It's 1 kilowatt. What do I have? Jackery. I have a 1 kW Jackery. That's what it is. And a 5 kW gas generator that's Honda, a 5 kW Honda gas generator. But I'm not too confident there's going to be too much gas available for too long. And I can't store that much here because, flammables and everything, it's just, in Texas, I'd have to store them out in the backyard and somewhere out in the backyard. And it's just going to get too hot. So I stay away from too many flammables.
Gas doesn't do well over time either. Within 3 months, it starts breaking down, and you're going to have engine problems if you don't have some kind of STP or something to add it to it.
So there's a couple things that you can add to it that'll prolong the life of it. Toolman Tim has a fantastic channel, and he's out of Canada. And he turned me on to Pride G, and it's a fantastic fuel stabilizer and conditioner. And then the other one that you can get almost anywhere is called Sta-Bil, STA-BIL. And that's another one. I know I got a whole bunch of that at Walmart for my gas for my lawnmower and things like that before. So.
And having that on hand probably is more important than gas, because you can always siphon, or pop a hole in the gas tank bottom, because most you can't siphon from anymore. If somebody's not using their car and they're dead on the road, may as well get something out of it.
Welcome, KP Heathen. Absolutely, you're right. So Fioxer says that he agrees on the time frame we're facing now. When I got serious during Obama's reign, I was hoping to get 10 to 15 years of prepping time, and called it pretty close. Yes, I believe you're right. Господин President Putin is right now in North Korea. They signed a bilateral defense agreement with North Korea. And he has agreed to provide North Korea with weapons of destruction. And I don't know if you all know it, but North Korea, Kim has been sending balloons filled with fecal matter across the border into Saigon is within, Saigon. Boy, you can tell where my mind is. Seoul is within artillery range of the DMZ. So it's very easy to put things in balloons and pop them across the border. And hit Seoul, which is an extremely large city. It's probably about the same size as New York City in population. It's a vast majority of people in Korea are in Seoul. But anyhow, so that's getting ready to kick off as well. So I agree with you. Things are not looking good. Now, I want to alleviate a little bit of the fear, and we have a tendency to be a little bit grandiose about things. But we're making a big deal out of this flotilla that has arrived in Havana of the Russians. We're making a big deal out of Russian trawlers and submarines off both coasts. They have always been there. Okay. When I was in military intelligence I retired right after Desert Storm in 1991, February 1st, 1991. They were there. Okay. The Russian fleet went to Havana on a regular basis. It was there. And as a matter of fact, they even had better capabilities back then than what they have sent this time. The Russian submarines have been off our coasts ever since the Cuban Missile Crisis in '62. So we're making a big deal out of it news-wise. I think people are using that to threaten you. Yes, I believe that the tension between the two countries is now at the same height as it was in October of 1962, but I don't think the capabilities are any greater than they were back then. So, don't get yourself all upset over the fact that they are there. They have been there. It's just now they're letting us know for sure that they are. But we've been tracking them for quite some time. So Grateful Every Day came in and said, welcome, Grateful Every Day. Happy to see you. Said that using cream corn with Jiffy is a great idea. Let me see. That means that I'm way, way behind in the comments. Well, Kaylin, absolutely. A crank can opener is fantastic. Absolutely essential, especially if you're going to be doing the large number 10 cans. Absolutely essential. Yeah, and so that's the same thing. Swing away is basically the same thing as what she's talking about, the crank, the stab and hand crank. Yeah, that's what we had in the trailer. So we have, that's what I had. I had the Dollar General can openers, and they've all been thrown away. I would rather use that space for something I can depend on. So Laura says, and welcome, Laura, that she's cooking beans now while water and fuel are available and then freeze drying them. What a great idea. As a matter of fact, Maggie was mentioning that she was doing that. Somebody else mentioned it on my live from last night, that they are freeze drying beans, because it might have been Gil. Was talking about they're freeze drying. They're doing their beans now and freeze drying them so that they don't have to have that much fuel consumption or time to cook in the future. Instant rice, beans, lentils. Yeah, great thinking, Laura. Great thinking. Laura, Maggie, I've kind of taken over and cut you off.
No,
I need to hear from you.
No, you didn't. You didn't. We did some of that. I was looking at this concealed storage. We did some of that, but this home canning, cook, bake, baking the beans ahead of time. The one thing I like is hiding stuff. So I have a day bed in my sewing room. I'm running out of space. We don't want our guest bedroom closet to have stuff. We don't want to advertise that. So I have a day bed, and what I did is I took out the mattress, turned it over because it unzips, put in a skim board, this like you use. They're pretty inexpensive. You can get them at the hardware store for, I think it's like $18 for a big thing. Cut it down to fit in there, and I can fit quite a bit of stuff in there. And it goes on the bed that goes under my day bed in our other room. And if somebody laid on it, it's got a thin thing, and there's going to be another board there, and it just will feel like an uncomfortable mattress.
Yep.
So that's full now. So
we don't have a guest room anymore. That's the room that a year ago Helen told me I could not incur into, and now there's no room left in it. So,
oh no,
we don't have a guest room anymore. So now I've got to buy some portable beds so that we can sleep in the living room. Kaylin says that lentils and mung beans are also fast cooking. When
Oh yeah.
I can remember, gosh, back in the 80s when Helen and I first got married, I probably, when I got transferred to Germany, I gave away, oh gosh, at least 20 5-gallon buckets of things. And 2 or 3 of those 5-gallon buckets that I gave away were lentils. And I had never cooked a lentil. I had never eaten a lentil. I had plenty of lentils and didn't know what I was going to do with them. So please don't make that mistake. If you're going to store something that at least you know how to cook and know you're going to like when you do it. Now I add lentils to almost all of my soups.
They have lots of protein.
I like lentils.
That and edamame has lots of protein.
Edamame is a fantastic thing to have as well. Let me see. So Fioxtra says he's glad he started acquiring things a long time ago, little by little. Absolutely. Not focused on one thing at a time. Now, I will tell you one thing that I wish I had done a little bit differently than what I have done, and that was I focused on price rather than focused on consistency. So I wish I had started with one object, let's say one can of chili from one particular manufacturer, and that size only. And that makes it easier to stack and store. Whereas right now I have this cacophony, Cassiopeia's horn of food, but it's all mixed sizes of cans and bottles, and especially with maple syrup. I don't think you're going to find any 2 bottles of maple syrup in my larder that are the same brand. Maybe 2, but not many. Maple syrup, and then other things like that. That I wish I had been consistent in the size and ability to store and stack. So if I had it to do all over again, I would be more consistent in that. No need to be sorry. Northern Grow Hobbies. I know they look terrible. I'm just pointing out that gardening is not as easy as a lot of people think it is, and I have a long way to go to consider myself an effective gardener.
When's the last time you put nutrients in it?
A couple weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
Let me see. Harvest Right's running special on refurbished freeze dryers. I don't have a place to put the freeze dryer to use it. I had somebody turned me on to Facebook Marketplace. Was it Little Lone Prepper, Sue Me, somebody? One of you turned me on to Facebook Marketplace. So I found a dehydrator here in the area, and I said, okay, I'll pick it up. Can you? And she says, no, I live in Liberty Hill, but I work in Killeen, so it's difficult. I commute. I said, okay, well, Saturday we're having our prepper meeting. You can meet me at the San Gabriel Park up in Georgetown. She said, okay. Well, she never showed up. So my first attempt to buy something on Facebook Marketplace did not go well. But if I had gotten it, I don't know what I'd do with it. I'm pretty much prepped up. Tuck by V, I have read a couple articles. What a great suggestion. I understand that amaranth is easier to grow, more plentiful, and has a higher, nutrient content than does wheat. So thank you for that reminder that you are absolutely right. Amaranth is, and there, I was talking to a guy out of Arizona, and he has a company that says, grow edibles in your front yard. So instead of growing flowers, everything he does is edibles. And I forget the name of his company, but I was thinking about becoming a distributor with him, but I changed my mind. But anyhow, and he talks about amaranth is a beautiful plant. That people won't think of it as being, it's not that commonly known here in the U.S., so people don't think of it as being a food source, but it's a pretty plant. Yeah, there are certain things that scare me, and pressure canning is one of them. I agree. Okay. Oh, yes, absolutely. Coconut oil is a fantastic long-term storage fat. Another good one you can there's in the oils and everything area. There's a little packages of what's called Bacon Up, and it's basically rendered bacon fat, and that's a fantastic thing to have also for anything that you want to fry. I get Luana coconut oil, so yes, I wholeheartedly agree with you there. Oh, let me see. Well, we are right at 1 hour, and let me catch up with the chat here, and then we can see what we've got here. So XNYC says, I have 2 wood-burning stoves and 1 wood-burning kitchen stove and a lot of firewood and a collection of oil lamps. That's great. Churn-Farm, hey, welcome. Good to see you. Says that they have a 5.5-day power outage. Their 200-watt Jackery ran his CPAP, a small fan, and charged his phone overnight with 40%. Wow. Great news. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. That's very important. Gatorade recipes. I did one on cold drinks. I keep forgetting the correct term. I call it stagnation, but it's not stagnation. It's, Maggie, who left us. Food. Anyhow, when you get tired of eating the same thing all the time, I did one on water being the same way, and did that. Maggie, so sorry we lost you. Okay, but I think we're done, and thank you so much, Maggie, for sharing your knowledge and being here with us this evening. For those of you who don't know, she does not have an active channel. I'm trying to talk her into it because she is so knowledgeable and she's so giving and so willing to share her experience and her knowledge. And so thank you for being here. If one of you would like to help, food fatigue, thank you, let alone prepper. See, I knew one of you knew the right terminology. And Laura, thank you. So thank you for helping me out with that. Thank you all for being here. And thank you, Maggie, for sharing and being here with us. Really appreciate it. So next week, we're going to be doing the same book. We're going to be doing chapter 6. And let me see what chapter 6 is. So chapter 6 is fuel and home power. And I just put out a 1-hour video on that today on fuel. I'm sorry, a 1-minute video. Okay, we're going to go to the book of Numbers, chapter 6, verses 24, 25, 26. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord let his face shine upon you, and the Lord look upon you kindly and give you peace. Before we finish, I want to look something up here real quick. I want to look up Bible. He who does not work does not eat. There we go. So it says there's 71 Bible verses about he who does not work will not eat. But the one that I am thinking of is Proverbs 18:9, which is whoever is slack in his work is a brother to him who destroys. And then Proverbs 13:4 says, the soul of the sluggard craves and gets nothing, while the soul of the diligent, it will be richly supplied. And then Proverbs 10:4 says, the slack hand causes poverty, but the hand of the diligent will make them rich. So anyhow, just remember that it is biblical. You got to work for your food. Okay, you can't just live off of others. So remember, we're all in this together, so we can come out the other side together. Thank you so much, as always, for sharing, for being so friendly, kind, polite, and respectful with each other. Because the only way we're going to get through this is by all of us being together. Take care, everybody. Thank you, Maggie, for being here. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. And we'll see you all Monday evening. And then Tuesday evening, we'll once again be working on the nonfiction book. Don't forget that a week from Thursday we're going to be working on our fiction book, which is around here somewhere. There it is. Nope, that's a different one. I have it here somewhere. There it is. So a week from Thursday we're doing the fiction book, 299 Days to the Collapse. So take care, everybody. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.